In the beginning of his campaign, Lincoln was viewed in two ways, as a modest common man and alternatively, a politically inexperienced newcomer. He was often referred to and depicted in political cartoons as a rail splitter, which was representative of his humble origins. His portrait, drawn by Currier and Ives, was successful in portraying him as a professional, experienced man rather than the amateur politician many viewed him as. As an interesting side note, his campaign image was not only influenced by the public, but also on a much smaller scale by an 11-year-old girl named Grace Bedell, who displayed her interest in Lincoln's image when she wrote a letter to him, suggesting that he grow a beard to improve his overall look. Lincoln's famous chin-strap beard is often accredited to Bedell's advice.
Lincoln was elected president in 1860 and was inaugurated on March 1861. The Civil War began in the same year between the North and the South. Originally, the war was fought by the North with the intention of preserving the Union. However, as the abolitionist movement escalated in the North, the fight to end slavery became a reason to support the war and defeat the Confederacy.
Lincoln was considered the great emancipator, but at the same time he was satirically portrayed as spoon-feeding emancipation through political means. Essentially, once the proclamation was declared, it conceded the right of African Americans to join the army, which revealed his primary motive of recruiting more soldiers rather than a moral cause. Abraham Lincoln's primary effort to free the slaves was the Emancipation Proclamation. Although it was a significant achievement, it was received with as much praise as it was with criticism. As the war quickly progressed, more soldiers were needed. The draft rule was used to recruit citizens as soldiers, often against their own will. Those who could afford the price of $300 were able to get out of the war. This marked the beginning of a divisive conflict that revolved around the socioeconomic injustices of the draft.
During the time of the Civil War, most significantly during the draft riots, serious rifts were created within New York society. This cartoon, entitled How to Escape the Draft, depicts racial and societal tensions that erupted in violence and chaos, especially on the streets of New York. The draft upset many because the price to escape the draft was too high for the lower class, which consisted mostly of Irish immigrants and African Americans, to pay. On the other hand, the war inspired a loyalist sense of nationalism, as shown in the Tiffany banner.
The image of Lincoln changed from the beginning of the campaign to the years of his presidency. In a portrait drawn by Alexander Hessler, Lincoln is depicted as a young man who was professionally experienced, despite his lack of extensive background in politics prior to his election. In another image, he is shown riding the rail of the Republican Party platform, denoting his status as the rail splitter. In his family portrait, he is shown as a family man, as opposed to a corrupt and politically driven one.
Towards the end of his presidency, the Civil War finally came to an end and resulted in a Union victory. Lincoln's goal of preserving the Union was now a reality, and his triumphs as a great leader of America won him much praise and recognition throughout the North. However, there was still some Southern aggression and presence of Confederate sympathizers in America after the Civil War. On April 14, 1865, Lincoln was assassinated by an actor named John Wilkes Booth while attending a performance at Ford's Theater.
The loss of Lincoln was a deeply mournful one. His death left a lasting impression and significantly impacted the nation. America had lost the president responsible for preserving the Union. The image showing City Hall during the commemoration of his death shows how a lot of people, especially in the North, gathered to mourn the loss of a great American leader. The image of Lincoln as a living figure among the crowd shows his ability to remain a legacy as a heroic and important figure in American history.
Today, Lincoln is commemorated in Washington, D.C. in the Lincoln Memorial. Perhaps the most significant or recognized aspect of the Lincoln Memorial is the massive statue that shows Lincoln sitting in a chair, looking over the White House presidential grounds. Many tourists visit the Lincoln Memorial and this specific monument every day. This image replicates the statue, which is actually much larger and made of marble.